Hey folks, Mike Dawkins from World Cast Anglers here with your Jackson Hole fly fishing forecast for the weekend of the 18th and 19th of July. I feel like I was just standing here celebrating the 4th of July, and here we go into the second half of the month with summer screaming by in the greater Jackson Hole and Teton Valley area. Big news coming into this weekend is we've got a couple things on the docket. We're starting to see some of those warmer water temperatures that are pretty unfriendly to our trout friends. You'll be hearing that as a consistent theme here until we start to get our first cooler days, cooler nights of fall, or our weather pattern changes, or we start to get maybe some precipitation. The second piece is we're sort of primed up for some good monsoonal moisture in the afternoons, including this afternoon with some afternoon rain showers. That also comes with afternoon thunderstorms, which also comes with lightning, which also creates forest fires. So we are going to keep our fingers crossed that we get the precip and that our lightning strikes don't necessarily cause, some big robust fires in our local region. But look for those two things: warmer water temperatures that are unfriendly to our trout friends and some of this monsoonal moisture to sort of shake things up in your fishing bag and your fishing docket, looking into this, this meat of summer, or like looking into the starting the second half of the summer season. Saturday, we've got 86 and 56, partly cloudy, still a bit of a scorcher. I was on the South Fork of the Snake guiding on an overnight on Tuesday and Wednesday. Super hot, super dry, but that morning that we had the cloud cover, our fishing was really good. So try to time and be on the lookout with the weather patterns when things cool off or we get some overcast skies. Get out there and get after it. Sunday, 89 and 58, mostly sunny. Our 10-day, we're looking into some of those low 80s, even the high 70s and low 50s, high 40s for our lows. And we've got some PM thunderstorm and a good chance they're coming in to next Tuesday with a big old bucket of rain heading our way. So we'll take every bit of it and more. Jackson Lake is 72% of capacity. Palisades Reservoir is 34% of capacity. Circling back to the water temps, you start to see stuff, when you carry your thermometer and you use it periodically, especially in the afternoon periods, noon, 1, 2 to 4. Those are going to be your time frames when those temperatures are going to start to climb up into some of those areas that are not good for our trout friends. Anywhere you start to see that 65 to 67, like, I get it. A lot of these thermometers are not very granular and super specific, but if I start to see those anywhere on my temperature measurements in the afternoon, I start to be aware. I start to fish heavier tippets. I'm landing fish really quick, just sort of putting the wood to them, keeping them in the net, keeping them in the wet, keeping them, in the water and releasing them. You start to see that 68 number. That's time to head to the bar, sit on the bank and have a beer, chill out, and sort of get ready for the next morning, session, or, just do some errands or something like that. That 68 temperature and above is definitely those ones where we don't want to mess or cause undue stress to our trout friends in our local region. So it's time to get the thermometers out. It's time to start using them. South Fork of the Snake, 13,800 CFS coming out of Palisades Dam, 14,000 CFS there on the lower river. The South Fork water quality is pretty still darn solid with Palisades Reservoir getting to around 34%. A lot of PMDs around, golden stones, a lot of yellow sallies and smaller goldens, and a bunch of caddis. It seems like the 4th of July have educated a lot of our trout in that river, so you're going to have to get creative. When I was fishing this past week, we did really well with a dry dropper, and that dropper was about, meter, maybe even a little bit more in that sense. Fishing a rubber leg, bullet quill, copper bead Duracell, paired with your favorite point fly, cider fly, indicator fly, was productive. The fish on the riffles were quite educated. We were looking at 5, 5.5, 6X, 16s, 18s, and 20s of the whole gamut of the PMD life cycle. But don't rule out those caddis and don't rule out those yellow sallies as well on the South Fork of the Snake. The Snake in Jackson, 5,050 CFS being discharged up there by Moran at Jackson Lake, 7,760 CFS there on the lower river. Flows are still high, and as I've been saying, they're going to stay high for this entire summer. we're starting to see some of those warmer water temps, there on the Snake, where water coming out of Jackson Lake's around 62 something degrees. Water downstream of there is starting to get warm in the afternoons, and that 2 p.m. Period. Get those thermometers out, use them, take some measurements throughout the day, be observant and be adaptable. Early morning starts are going to be your best friend. Dry dropper fishing is still pretty darn strong. Small dry fly fishing with the flows has been a little bit more challenging, but people are getting it done. This is just one of those years on the Snake where we're going to see a lot of water, and you're going to have to adapt your fishing techniques, your fishing hours, and everything about it. But it's still a solid fishing option in the greater Jacksonville area for the summer season. Now is sort of that traditional summer time fishing on the Snake that we all love. Great floats in Grand Teton National Park, but with those flows, definitely be careful up there. Pack to dead, dead to moose, and moose to Wilson. Teton here in the valley, 300 CFS around Driggs, 647 CFS down there around St. Anthony. We've seen the Teton as a free stone start to really like tank over that mark and settle out into that just sort of in-stream flow for the rest of summer. Flows are really clear. We're seeing a lot of weed growth. Small dry fly fishing has still been pretty strong. PMDs, parachute Adams, Parawolves, caddis, a leftover Drake maybe here and there, or yellow Sally. Dry dropper fishing has been pretty darn solid as well as some small streamers. But remember with the Teton, when these flows start to get low, you don't have to concentrate on those banks. Look for fish in the middle of the river behind those pushes of water, weed beds, weed mats, little drops, and things like that. And you'll be pleasantly surprised on where you can find some fish in the Teton during the summer season. Similar to the Snake, we're going to start to see some warmer water temperatures there, especially in the afternoons if we don't get a big cool down. So use your thermometer, be ready, and if you find those water temperatures around 67, 68 degrees, it's time to stop. Henry's Fork, 1,610 CFS up there by the Box Canyon, 2,120 CFS on the lower river. Lower river still that leftover sort of rusty spinner PMD game. Terrestrials, hoppers, beetles, ants, I'd sprinkle those in, starting to go into this sort of second half or the beginning of the second half of summer. Up there, in the warm river to Ashton, Lower Mesa, Riverside, Hatchery Ford, still solid dry dropper action. Highly oxygenated water, 1,610 CFS going off up there. It's, as I've said in the past couple weeks, it's a great option if you're looking to do something different. Box Canyon is still good. Nymphing, rubber legs, small technical tailwater fair, zebra midges, English pheasant tails, any of that kind of stuff can be good. It's great for a couple hour float. It's great for a full day float. And the ranch has been holding its own. We've seen some consistency in the water levels here and there. That's still mostly a PMD game, maybe a leftover Flav or Drake. Those are pretty much done. It's mostly going to be PMDs, caddis, and again, I'd start looking for that terrestrial action on the Henry's Fork, as well as a lot of our other local rivers here earlier than we normally see them. Creeks and tribs are still fishing really well. Some of them are coming down. Plenty of cold, clean water in those. If you want to take some pressure off of our big fisheries, or you're sort of over the summer traffic on the Snake or the Teton or the South Fork, now's the time to hit up some of our backcountry creeks and tribs. Dry dropper fishing, small tractor fishing. A lot of those this time of year, I'll start erroring away from the foam flies and into some more traditional stuff. PMXs, Schroeder's parachute hoppers. Seems like they have seen a good amount of that winged foam imitation, and you can usually get it done with some more natural fibered flies. Yellowstone National Park, we've got some full closures up there. We went from, the partial sort of hoot owl closures, but now the Firehole and the Madison, as well as the Gibbon downstream of Norris, are on full closures for fishing due to high water temperatures. Those areas don't really normally fish that great this time of year. I love fishing those more in the spring and the fall. If I was heading to Yellowstone National Park to go fish, I'd look at the Yellowstone River with some leftover Drakes, PMDs, and terrestrials. It opened on July 1st. And I'd be looking at the northeast corner of the park. Quick runoff, not a big snowpack. Slough Creek, Soda Butte Creek, Pebble Creek. the Lamar, any of that stuff can be really good this time of year. I'd be ready with the gamut of terrestrials, PMDs, and caddis. So Fly Shop's open 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. every day of the week during the summer season. We look forward to seeing everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Have a safe weekend and a great weekend out on the water. And be aware of those water temperatures as well as these afternoon thunderstorms. Time them appropriately and be safe out on the water. Thanks.